Hoang sat at her modest kitchen table, staring at the shimmering invitation from her son Leo's wife, Ruby. It was for the most exclusive event of the year, a futuristic gala hosted by the Velasquez family, who controlled one of the most powerful tech empires in the city. For the first time, Tina had been invited to join the elite circle, a world that seemed as far removed from her humble existence as the stars. Tina, a 60-year-old self-made businesswoman, had worked hard her entire life, building a small but successful local startup. She had always sacrificed her own comfort to provide for Leo, making do with second-hand furniture and discount clothes. Now, in the midst of her son's success, Tina was thrust into a world of polished luxury, where appearances mattered more than substance. Ruby, Leo's wife, had always kept her at arm's length, and Tina had been painfully aware of her daughter-in-law's quiet disdain for her simpler, old-school ways. Determined to make a good impression, Tina spent the entire week preparing. She scoured expensive boutiques, trying to find a dress that would fit her budget while still making her look the part of someone worthy of the Velasquez's world. After much searching, she settled on a burgundy gown that was elegant but affordable, and hired an AI-powered makeup service that promised to give her a flawless look. But as Tina looked at her reflection, she couldn't help but feel like an outsider. Her mind raced with doubts. Would she belong? Would Ruby finally accept her? The party felt like a final exam in her son's new world, and Tina was determined to pass, even if it meant sacrificing her own comfort and authenticity. Little did she know, her journey would take an unexpected turn on the way there. Tina was already running late when the storm hit. Freezing rain battered the windshield of her modest sedan as she drove cautiously toward the Velasquez estate. The weather had turned treacherous, turning the roads into a slick maze of ice and snow. Despite her best efforts, Tina was behind schedule, the thought of arriving late and looking less than perfect gnawing at her. As she navigated the winding road toward the estate, her headlights caught sight of a luxury sedan parked by the side. Its hood popped open. A woman stood beside it, her silver hair drenched by the storm, her elegant coat unable to protect her from the biting cold. Tina hesitated for a moment, the urgency of the party weighing on her mind, but something about the woman's dignified composure stopped her. Pulling over, Tina rolled down her window. "Do you need help?" she called out, her voice barely audible over the wind. The woman turned, revealing sharp blue eyes that seemed to assess Tina with a mix of curiosity and appreciation. "I seem to be having car trouble," the woman replied calmly. "The engine just died." Tina's instincts kicked in. She wasn't a mechanic, but her late husband Frank had taught her enough about car repairs to know when something was wrong. Despite the storm, Tina stepped out of her car, the cold seeping through her coat as she approached the woman's vehicle. "Let me take a look," she offered, already knowing this would make her even later to the gala. The woman watched as Tina examined the engine, a small smile tugging at her lips. "You're sure you know what you're doing?" she asked, her voice warm but amused. "Coca-Cola," Tina replied confidently. "It's an old trick, helps clean corrosion off the battery terminals." The woman raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. As Tina poured the cola onto the terminals, she realized that her carefully planned evening was slipping away, but this was what mattered. After all, you don't leave someone stranded. The engine roared to life. The woman's eyes softened. "Well, I can't say I was expecting a rescue today, but thank you." She smiled, her gaze lingering on Tina, an approving look in her eyes. "I'm Miriam Velasquez," she said, extending a hand. Tina froze, her heart skipping a beat. Miriam Velasquez, the matriarch of the Velasquez family, the very woman whose gala she had been rushing to. Tina couldn't believe what was happening. Miriam Velasquez, CEO of one of the most influential tech companies in the city, was standing beside her, smiling with genuine warmth. The woman she had just helped, whose car she had repaired on the side of a stormy road, was the very matriarch of the family she had been trying so hard to impress. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on Tina. Miriam, after thanking Tina for her kindness, offered her a business card and suggested they head to the gala together. Tina, despite her disheveled appearance, couldn't say no. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, but somehow it had taken a simple act of kindness to bring her closer to her sons in-laws than any dress or makeup could. The drive to the Velasquez estate was quiet, Tina lost in her thoughts, the evening turning into something she hadn't anticipated, an unintentional twist in her fate. When they arrived, Tina's heart sank. The estate looked even more extravagant up close. Valets in sleek uniforms greeted them as guests walked through marble halls, dressed to the nines. Tina glanced at herself in the car's side mirror. Her burgundy gown was stained, her hair matted to her scalp from the rain, and her coat was soaked through. She looked nothing like the polished woman she had envisioned, but Miriam walked confidently beside her, unaffected by Tina's unkempt appearance. Entering the grand ballroom, Tina could feel the eyes on her instantly. Guests, high-profile tech moguls, business leaders, and socialites, paused mid-conversation, their gazes sweeping over her as though she were a curiosity. Ruby, standing with her family across the room, immediately stiffened, her mouth tight with disapproval. Tina's stomach twisted. "Mom, what happened?" Leo's voice came from behind her, his tone a mix of concern and embarrassment. He looked at her with wide eyes, trying to process the scene unfolding. What happened to your dress?" Before Tina could respond, Ruby stepped forward, her lips curling into a forced smile. "Oh my goodness, Tina, you're late and, quite underdressed." Her voice dripped with condescension, a clear message of dismissal. Tina felt the sting of her daughter-in-law's words, the familiar ache of never being good enough. But before she could shrink away into the background, Miriam's calm voice sliced through the tension like a knife. "Actually," Miriam said, her gaze sweeping over the room, "I think everyone should know just what kind of woman Tina is." All eyes turned to her. The room fell silent, and for a moment Tina's breath caught in her throat. She felt exposed, vulnerable. But then Miriam, with her usual poise, continued. "This woman, despite being late and in a rush, stopped to help a stranger in need. She put kindness above her own appearance, and that speaks volumes about her character." Miriam's voice rang out, firm and resolute. Tina's heart raced, the room's stares turning from judgmental to curious. Ruby's face flushed, her smile frozen in place. The guests, who had once dismissed Tina as an outsider, now leaned in, eager to hear more. Miriam smiled at Tina, a gesture that felt like a lifeline. "Tina didn't just help me today, she reminded me what truly matters." The shift in the room's energy was palpable. Tina, who had spent years trying to fit in, had unknowingly earned something far more important than acceptance. Respect. Miriam's words had turned what felt like a humiliating moment into an unexpected vindication. As the party continued, the murmur of conversations shifted. Tina, still reeling from the public spotlight, couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. Miriam Velasquez's words had changed everything. The cold, dismissive atmosphere from Ruby and the other guests began to thaw, replaced with something different: curiosity, respect, and perhaps even admiration. For the first time, Tina felt like she belonged, not because of her appearance or social standing, but because of her actions. Miriam, seemingly unaffected by the subtle tension in the room, led Tina to a quiet corner away from the crowd. The rich aroma of expensive champagne filled the air as they walked, but Tina's mind was elsewhere. She had been humiliated, but in that humiliation, something powerful had emerged. Miriam looked at her with an intensity that made Tina pause. "You're more than what you think you are, Tina," Miriam said, her voice low but steady. "More than a mother-in-law or a background character in someone else's life. You've got something that this world needs: practicality, compassion, the kind of values that people often overlook in favor of wealth and status." Tina blinked, confused. "I don't understand. What do you mean?" Miriam smiled, a glint of something like approval in her eyes. "I've been looking for someone like you for a long time. The world is changing, Tina. People are tired of the same empty, self-serving business practices. They want real leadership, someone who's willing to make hard decisions, to care about people and not just profits." Tina's heart raced. "I'm not." "Don't tell me you're not qualified," Miriam interrupted, her tone gentle but firm. "You already have what it takes. You just need the right platform to make an impact." Before Tina could respond, Miriam handed her a sleek business card, this time not as a mere formality, but as an offer. "I'd like you to join V Industries as a consultant. We're about to undergo a major restructuring, and I need someone with your perspective. We're going to focus on community outreach, ethics, and sustainability in ways this company hasn't before. I need someone with character, Tina. Someone who knows what it's like to truly connect with people." Tina's mind was spinning. Just hours ago, she had been just another outsider at the edges of this elite world. Now, Miriam Velasquez, the CEO of a tech empire, was offering her a chance to reshape the future of one of the most powerful companies in the world. It was too much, too soon. "I don't know anything about running a corporation, Miriam. I'm just a regular woman who helps when she can," Tina stammered. Miriam smiled knowingly. "Exactly. You know what it takes to fix things, Tina. You don't need to be a corporate expert to fix what's broken. You just need to care enough to start. And I believe that's exactly what you're capable of." The weight of the proposition settled heavily on Tina's shoulders. This wasn't just about a job. This was about her values being recognized in a world that often valued the opposite. This was her chance to not just fit in, but to change things, to lead. Before Tina could answer, Leo appeared beside them, his expression a mix of confusion and pride. He had been watching from afar, unsure of how to react to the dramatic turn of events. His eyes met his mother's, and for the first time, Tina saw something different: respect. "Mom, I don't know what to say," Leo said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never knew. I never realized just how much you had to offer. You've always been there for me, but this, I see it now. This is your time. You deserve this." Tina felt a lump in her throat. For the first time, she felt like Leo truly understood her. She had spent years trying to prove her worth to him and Ruby, but it wasn't until this moment in front of Miriam and her family that she realized her value didn't need anyone's validation. It was inherent. With Miriam's offer still hanging in the air, Tina took a deep breath. "I'll accept the position," she said, her voice steady. "I'm ready to do this, to make a difference." Miriam's smile widened. "Excellent. James will prepare the paperwork." As the two women shook hands, Tina felt a sense of purpose surge through her. The Velasquez family might have underestimated her before, but now she was stepping into a new role, one where her values, her compassion, and her strength would define her. As the night continued, the shift in family dynamics became evident. Ruby, who had always kept Tina at arm's length, looked on with a mix of disbelief and resentment. David, Tina's son, had always felt torn between his mother and his wife's world. But now, he couldn't hide the pride in his eyes as he watched his mother step into the light. The gala went on, but Tina had already taken the first step toward something bigger, something far more meaningful than any designer dress or corporate position. She was becoming the change she had always wanted to see. The next few days were a whirlwind for Tina. The days blurred into one another as she navigated the next phase of her life. Miriam had given her the platform she never expected to receive, but the weight of the responsibility felt daunting. For years, Tina had fought for respect in the shadows, but now she was standing in the spotlight, entrusted with the future of a major corporation. Her heart pounded every time she thought about the upcoming meeting at V Industries. In her quiet apartment, Tina sat at her kitchen table, staring at the contract Miriam had handed her. The numbers were high, more than she had ever made in her life. The opportunity was huge, but the stakes were even higher. Miriam had chosen her, but it was Tina who had to prove that she belonged. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was Leo. "Mom, how are you holding up?" His voice sounded both concerned and curious, as though trying to bridge the distance between his mother and his world. He had been quiet since the gala, likely processing everything that had happened. "I'm fine, Leo," Tina replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "I'm just still trying to wrap my head around it all." "I'm proud of you, Mom, you know that, right?" Leo's voice softened. "You've always been my rock, but this is different. I didn't know you had this in you." Tina's chest tightened with emotion. The years of feeling like an outsider, the silent judgment from Ruby, the self-doubt, all of it had built up inside her. Now, hearing her son's words made her realize that she didn't need to fit in with anyone. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. This was her time, her moment to shine. The following morning, Tina stood in front of a large glass building, V Industries headquarters towering over her. The sleek, futuristic architecture, all sharp angles and reflective surfaces, felt like a world she had never been a part of. Yet today she was stepping into it as an equal, no more second-guessing herself. Inside, Miriam greeted her with a warm smile. "Welcome to your new office," she said, gesturing toward a modern, minimalist desk overlooking the city. "You're going to do great things here." Tina nodded, still trying to absorb the magnitude of it all. As Miriam walked her through the office, introducing her to key members of the team, Tina realized just how much power her role could wield. She wasn't just another consultant. She was the face of a new era for V Industries, where compassion, community, and real change would be the driving force. As Tina sat at her desk for the first time, her mind raced with ideas. She thought about her community back home, the people who had supported her when things were tough, the neighbors who helped each other without question. She would bring that sense of unity and purpose into the company's ethos, making sure that V Industries didn't just make money, but also made a difference in the world. Days turned into weeks, and Tina's influence began to shape the company. Her approach was simple but revolutionary: put people first. She led initiatives that brought real change, working with local businesses, schools, and community leaders to build sustainable programs. It wasn't just about charity. It was about rebuilding the company's integrity and purpose from the ground up. The ripple effects of her work didn't go unnoticed. Miriam continued to mentor her, but it was clear that Tina's voice was becoming more prominent in the boardrooms. Every decision Tina made was rooted in the values she had always held dear: kindness, honesty, and a commitment to making the world better for everyone, not just the wealthy few. Meanwhile, back at the Velasquez family estate, Ruby's coldness began to crack. She started to see her mother-in-law not as an inconvenience, but as a force to be reckoned with. The family dynamic shifted. The respect Tina had fought for in the past was now earned through her actions, not her appearance. Miriam, too, started to take Tina's advice more seriously. It wasn't just about running a business anymore. It was about leading with heart. One evening, as Tina and Leo sat in her office, looking out over the city lights, he turned to her, his expression full of pride. "I always thought you were just my mom, the one who worked hard to give me everything," Leo said quietly. "But now, I see how much more you are, how much you've always been." Tina smiled softly, a wave of warmth flooding her chest. "You've always been the reason I kept going, Leo, but now I'm doing this for me too." The future stretched out before her, full of possibility. Tina had finally found her place, not just in her family, but in a world that had always seemed out of reach. She had fought for her voice, for her values, and now she was leading a revolution in a corporate world that desperately needed it. She wasn't just a mother, a widow, or an outsider anymore. She was Tina Hoang, a leader, a change maker, and a woman who had learned that the most powerful thing she could do was remain true to herself. And with that, Tina knew she had finally arrived. Not at the gala, not at the top of the corporate ladder, but at the place where she truly belonged. Months passed, and Tina's transformation was undeniable. V Industries, under her influence, began to shift. The company was no longer just focused on profits and status. Under Tina's guidance, they implemented new programs that prioritized environmental sustainability, supported local communities, and promoted ethical business practices. Tina's vision had become a guiding light for the company, and her name became synonymous with integrity and purpose in the corporate world. Her relationship with Leo had deepened, their bond now grounded in mutual respect. Ruby, while still cautious, had begun to see her mother-in-law in a new light. The barriers that once separated them began to crumble, and Tina's quiet strength was finally acknowledged. Tina often thought back to that stormy night when she had stopped to help Miriam Velasquez. It had been a moment of pure instinct, a choice between doing what was right and adhering to the rules of a world that didn't quite fit her. But in that act of kindness, Tina had unknowingly charted her own path toward a future she never imagined. One evening, as she sat at her desk, looking out over the city skyline, she felt a deep sense of peace. The world she had fought so hard to fit into had finally embraced her, not because of her appearance or her status, but because she had stayed true to who she was. She had reclaimed her power, not just in the boardroom, but in every facet of her life. Tina Hoang wasn't just a mother anymore. She wasn't just a consultant, a businesswoman, or a leader in a tech empire. She was a woman who had dared to be herself, and in doing so had changed the course of her future. And as she looked ahead, Tina knew that the journey wasn't over. There was still work to be done, still lives to impact, and still people to help. The woman who had once felt like an outsider had found her place in a world that was finally ready for someone like her. Her story, just like her life, was far from finished. It was only the beginning.